I don't know if you guys have heard this story, but there was a guy, I think in the 1970s in Texas, who was married, loved his in-laws. Surprisingly, that's not very common. Loved his wife, loved his family, went to work every day, enjoyed what he did. He just lived his life and did his thing. And one day, inexplicably, he took a rifle in the middle of the night, killed his in-laws, who, may I remind you, he loved. He loved these people. These were good people. And then he went to the top of a clock tower and started firing off shots. I think he got 11 people before the police, got him. Deputized a citizen who got up there and wrestled it away from him. And they killed him in the end. He ended up dying, I believe. It was like a murder type of deal. And he left a note. And in that note, he said, "Something has gone terribly wrong. I don't know what it is. I've been having these horrific thoughts lately that I can't shake off. I feel compelled to do absolutely terrible things, and I am requesting that upon my death, scientists use my body to understand what went wrong with me that drove me to do this so that it doesn't happen to somebody else." And you know what happened? They got the guy to a hospital after he died. They opened up his brain, and they found a tumor sitting in his skull. A tumor. They'd taken the steps to try to detect this tumor or try to do something about it or whatever. This may not have happened. This could all be avoided, People would be alive today. Maybe. I mean, it's been a while now. I think this was in the 70s. But still, hell, maybe he'd be alive today. Who knows, right? I mean, cancer research was not that far along back then, so there may not have been anything anybody could do. But the point here is that everything in your life comes down to brain states. Every single thing. Donald Trump, I keep going back to him because he's like the quintessential scumbag to me. He is the quintessential evil piece of garbage that is out for nobody but him. Donald Trump is that way because that's what he was taught. Because that's all he knows. That's all he experienced growing up. And that's the state of his brain. Is there blame to go around? Sure. Yes, there's blame to go around. You should recognize good qualities and bad qualities in people and in society. You should have a finely honed moral compass. But when the rubber hits the road at the end of the day, you are who you are, and it is a direct product of how you were raised, what your mother did when she was pregnant with you, the state of your brain, any mental illnesses you may have. I mean, it all boils down to that. And when I realize that, I find it harder to blame people for things and easier to feel sympathy for them instead. Rather than to blame, I feel sympathy. I want to help. I want to fix this. I want to find what's going wrong here and prevent it. And you know what? When it's not preventable, when we can't fix this, when we can't help these people like Donald Trump, he's built a cult around himself. There's no fixing that. He intends to weaponize it against people around him. He intends to destroy democracy in the United States, seemingly. There's no fixing that. So when there's no fixing it, as there isn't in some cases, I want to protect society from them. Put them in a mental institution, put them in a jail, separate them from society for society's protection. But it should be a last resort. And when they're in jail, we should assume that they are capable of recovering from whatever brain state is haunting them that brought them to that point in their life. We should not look at jail as a punishment, but as a method of rehabilitation. Let me give you this thought experiment, okay? Think about this. I'm going to give you 5 seconds of complete silence to think about a city. Any city in the entire world. You can pick any city. Quick interjection. I won't take long. I just wanted to tell you guys, YouTube's algorithm operates off of a few factors. Watch time, whether or not you subscribe, and whether or not you like something. So if you really want to help my channel, I would appreciate it if you guys watch the video to the end. If you don't watch it to the end, just watch a little bit longer than you would have otherwise. I would appreciate that very much. All right, let's get back to the video. 5 seconds, starting now. Did you come up with a city? Which city was it? Was it Cairo? Most people probably know that Cairo is a city, right? Was it Xinjiang, China? Many people may have heard that name. Was it Moscow, Russia? And how did that city come to you? How did you pick that city? Your brain is feeding you thoughts, unbidden almost. It's called your inner monologue. And you're basically sending a request. I need a breed of a dog. I need the name of a city. And it tosses back a few things at you. And you, as the conscious part of you, like the CEO of the brain, if you will, can pick from that list. Now, a lot of my audience is probably from the United States, and your undermind, if you will, your unconscious brain is probably hyper-focused on U.S. cities. So, look, I'm seeing a lot of just people in the chat. Baghdad, that's one. That's interesting. Toronto, that's in Canada. We got New York, Dubai, that's an interesting one. Tel Aviv, Ponce, PR, I don't know that one. NYC, New York, Istanbul. Interestingly enough, there's no Cairo. There's no Cairo in the list that I can see. You know, I think maybe 1 or 2 people did pick Cairo. Well, anyway, the point is, the decisions that you make aren't really your fault. Again, like, I'm not erasing blame from people who deserve it, okay? I'm just trying to redirect focus off of punishment and onto rehabilitation. That's the correct word to use there. Historically, we've used punishment, for 1,000 years, 2,000, 3,000, 6,000, 10,000, 100,000 years. We've used punishment. We've hurt others who hurt us. Eye for an eye. Get back at them because they hurt us. We're going to hurt them, right? But they're not the ones making the decisions. Ultimately, they're being pushed into things by their undermind, their back brain, their unconscious. There was a study forever ago where they told people, they had a little device in front of people on a table, right? And this device would flash random numbers, 57, 83, 26. It just keeps flashing them, right? And these people were told to pick at complete random which hand they're going to raise, left or right. And the moment they decide which hand they're going to raise, make note of the number that's on the little device in front of them so that they know the exact moment that they made that decision. And then raise your hand. They also had them hooked up to equipment to scan their brain. So these people believed that they were making the decision mere 100 milliseconds or less before they were raising their hand. The equipment that was being used to scan their brain indicated that their undermind, their back brain, their unconscious, had decided a full 6 seconds before they made note of the number on the little device. A full 6 seconds before the CEO of their brain was aware of this. Their undermind was working. It had already decided. It was just a matter of sending that information to them, to the CEO, which, of course, in this analogy, CEO would be the conscious brain. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of alien hand syndrome. You ever heard of that one? That's fascinating, where somebody will be walking along one day and just out of nowhere, their other hand starts just doing its own thing, just knocks things off of shelves as they're walking, or like they have no control over it. It's just, making decisions for itself almost. It wants water. It's going to grab the water. It's going to take a sip. That is the direct result of there being kind of a break in the undermind. There's one CEO who's making decisions, but the undermind is the one that's really making the decisions here. And there happen to be 2 underminds in this scenario, and one of them is fighting with the other. And the CEO is completely unaware, has no idea what's going on. What's even more fascinating is when people with this syndrome, do something, or, they have no experience with it, they don't even realize that they have this. When they do something, like, their leg or their legs are alien legs, for example. They stand up and they start to walk down the hall. There's no reason for them to walk down the hall. And the researcher asks them, why did you do that? Why did you take a sip of that water? Why did you grab that cup? Well, I was thirsty. Well, I was just going outside for a smoke break. Their conscious mind will make up a reason for why they did what they did, an explanation for it. When in reality, it was the undermined making the decisions the entire time. The CEO had no part in these decisions at all, but they'll come up with a reason anyways. Again, I will reiterate. The point here is people aren't really to blame for their decisions. Not really. Society needs to be protected from the worst of the worst. Society needs to be protected from Donald Trump. Society needs to be protected from people who are aware of how psychology works and exploit people's vulnerabilities and take advantage of them to grab a hold of them and use them to their own ends, like Hitler did, like Donald Trump has done. Society needs protection from people like that. But those people are like that because of how they were raised, because of the brain states that they have experienced. Free will is a religious concept, not a scientific one. Anyway, just something to think about. I know, like I said, it was a little bit scattershot there, but hopefully I can piece this into a coherent kind of theme and explanation, a video that means something and is kind of interesting. That's the psychology of it. That's how the psychology works. The most important point that you can possibly pull from what I just explained about how the brain works and how people think and everything, most important point you can pull from this is that we should be focused on rehabilitating people instead of punishing them. Punishing people is what we were doing 10,000 years ago. Punishing people is what we were doing in biblical times. Why are we using a morality that's 6,000 years old when we have new information that explains our behavior and our undermined and our understanding of everything so much better than we had back then? People used to think that your thoughts came from right here, from your heart, not from your brain. They didn't realize that this is the thing that was doing the thinking, because this is the thing that felt when something happened. You get scared, you get anxious, or you feel love or something. The emotion, the feelings came from here, and they thought that's where the thinking came from as a result. We have advanced so much, even in the past 50 years, even in the past 100 years. We need to move away from a punishment-based system desperately and move to a rehabilitative system. No more punishment. Okay, I'm not trying to get vengeance on anybody. I don't want to kill them because they killed somebody else. I want to understand why they did that. Was it a brain tumor? Like the guy in the clock tower who killed his beloved in-laws? Is that what caused this guy to kill somebody? Was it the fact that he was exposed to crack in utero? What was it? What was the thing that did this? There's an explanation. Let's figure out what the explanation is and fix it. And if we can't fix it, for society's protection, put him in jail for the rest of his life so that he can't harm anybody else. That's the way I see it. Anyway, let me know what you think about it in the comments. I'm just, I'm advocating for a system of rehabilitation. It's kind of an uphill battle, arguing against like a punishment-based system to a rehabilitative system when the Constitution explicitly says prisoners are legally allowed to be enslaved, and they are enslaved in the United States. Seriously, we have slavery in the U.S. You may not know that. We do. We have slavery in the U.S. right now, today. Prisoners are slaves. They're used for slave labor. They print license plates, they sew fabrics, all for nothing. They are forced to do these things. They, to mop, to clean or to make food or whatever. They are forced to do this stuff. So I don't see the U.S. system moving toward a rehabilitative justice system anytime soon, if for no other reason than that right there, because we would lose our source of slave labor. But it's something to keep in mind. At least telling people about it might get us a little bit closer to the goal that I'm shooting for. Everybody has their good qualities. Everybody has a mix of good and bad in them. Some more good than others, some more bad than others. But I personally believe, this is informed by my knowledge of psychology, which, I do have a degree in this field. I personally believe that all of the bad that you find in a person, everybody is a mix of good and bad, some more good, some more bad. The people who have more bad in them than good, like say Donald Trump, for example, in my personal opinion, I believe that all of that can be boiled down to a single explanation or to a number of explanations. They experience the same type of abuse when they were little. They maybe have a mental condition where they just simply can't feel empathy. They don't care. Psychopathy, antisocial personality disorder comes down to mental illness and past experiences. In my opinion, that's what the bad in people comes from. How was Donald Trump treated by his dad? I have to wonder. His dad was a terrible scumbag. Fred Trump, right? He took advantage of the people under him. What do you think it was like to watch the person that you looked up to so much, you cared about? Like, this guy built an empire and earned so much money. Like, he was your hero, and you're learning from this guy. And what are you learning? You're learning how to f people over. You're learning that part of getting rich is stepping on people's faces. Now, it doesn't have to be that way. It shouldn't be that way. And you know what? And if it requires that I step on people's faces to be rich, I don't want to be rich. But that was the message that Donald Trump picked up from his dad. You have to be a scumbag in life. You have to f these people out of every penny that they have. Donald Trump is famous for hiring a small company with only a few employees that's reasonably new to do certain jobs for him, and then just not paying them. And this company doesn't have the funds to keep going. They don't even have the funds to hire a lawyer to sue Donald Trump to get the money they're owed. So this company just goes under, and Trump never pays the money because it's tied up in litigation for 10 years, and he's $100,000 richer because he destroyed this small business. That's what he learned from his dad. That's what he learned from the man that built an empire and that he looked up to so fervently his entire life. That's obviously wrong and disgusting, right? But Trump didn't see it that way. Trump saw his dad as a hero, as a successful guy, as somebody that was special. When you're little, that's how you view your dad. And when you finally find out that your dad is not the hero you thought him to be, that he's not somebody special, it shatters you. Donald Trump never did learn that lesson, that Fred Trump wasn't the hero that he believed him to be. You know what he learned? He learned to be just like his dad. So everything, in my opinion, everything good and bad can all be attributed in a human being to past experiences and mental states. There is no soul that's good or bad. The baby that's exposed to crack in utero is going to have a different experience in life than the child of a millionaire who has the opportunity to, get into Harvard Law School and go through whatever programs, They're going to have very different life experiences. And they're going to have very different perspectives on life, different outlooks on life, right? My point is that there is no thing in us that just makes us good or bad people. Like, it all boils down to our brain states.